The alert klaxon jolted Lieutenant Skiller from his half-sleep at Monitoring Station 7. The young Medusan's bioluminescent tentacles flashed bright purple with surprise as he blinked his 3 primary eyes at the sensor display. "Impossible," he whispered, the word emerging as a series of clicks from his speech organ. The anomaly had appeared at the edge of Sector 7's detection grid, a vessel moving at velocities that violated what the Alliance considered possible for ships of that mass. Its trajectory cut through the carefully mapped hyperspace lanes like they weren't even there, heading directly toward the Nimbus system. Senior Analyst Skiller, Commander Vexora, floated into the monitoring chamber, her crystalline body refracting the emergency lights. "Explain this disruption." Skiller's tentacles flickered anxiously. "Unknown vessel, Commander. Configuration matches no known Alliance design. Energy signature suggests capability significantly beyond our technological index." The commander's crystalline structure darkened, the equivalent of a frown. "Origin. Unknown space, beyond the fringe. It's..." Skiller hesitated. "It appears to be from the quarantine zone we designated around the 3rd spiral arm, the zone containing the isolated species." Vexora vibrated in alarm, sending harmonic ripples through the air. The humans. Impossible. Their system was surrounded by passive monitoring satellites. They shouldn't have deep space capability for at least another 30 cycles. The sensor display updated, projecting the vessel's likely course. A direct intercept with Nimbus II, home to 8 billion Alliance citizens. Vexora didn't hesitate. Her crystalline form pulsed as she interfaced with the emergency broadcast system. Throughout 17 species territories across 8 sectors, the automated warning began to blare. Red alert. Human warship incoming. No vieng Koitski Lai. All defensive forces to Kuundichion 1. This is not a drill. Captain Elena Reyes massaged her temples, staring at the small holocube projecting above her desk. The message had been badly degraded by the time it reached Earth's deep space arrays. Fragments of desperate pleas, distorted alien faces, and sensor data indicating a catastrophic stellar event. "Play it again," she ordered the ship's eye. The projection flickered, showing alien children huddled in what appeared to be an emergency shelter. A voice, translated roughly by the ship's linguistics program. "Oxygen levels critical. Planetary shields failing. Coronal ejection imminent. Please, anyone." The timestamp indicated they had less than 72 hours before disaster struck. The Thunderchild wasn't supposed to be here. The research vessel had been scheduled for decommissioning next month after completing its survey mission of the Oort cloud. But when the distress call came through on frequencies that bypassed official UEN channels, it had been the only ship in range with the experimental Hawking drive, capable of reaching the coordinates in time. Captain Rice had made the decision without waiting for approval from Earth Command. First contact protocol be damned. There were lives at stake. A chime on her desk interrupted her thoughts. "Captain, to the bridge immediately," came Security Chief Okonkwo's tense voice. "We're being scanned by multiple vessels. Weapons signatures detected." Reyes grabbed her uniform jacket, adrenaline pushing aside her fatigue. "Hostile?" she asked, already moving toward the door. "Unknown, but they formed a blockade directly in our path. Their weapons are hot." So much for the "we are not alone" celebration humanity had been planning for decades. "Shields up, but keep our weapons cold," she ordered, striding toward the bridge. "And someone figure out how to say 'we come in peace' in whatever language they speak." Humanity's first contact with alien life was about to happen at gunpoint. The Thunderchild's bridge hummed with tension as Captain Rice stepped through the sliding doors. On the main view screen, a formation of alien vessels arranged in a precise geometric pattern blocked their path to Nimbus II. 17 distinct ship designs, Lieutenant Park reported from the communication station, her neural implants pulsing with soft blue light at her temples. Their transmissions suggest multiple species operating under unified command. Rice took her command chair, noting the dark circles under her crew's eyes. None of them had properly rested since they'd diverted course 3 days ago. Any progress translating their signals? Park shook her head. Their communication architecture is unlike anything in our databases, but the underlying mathematical patterns suggest a warning. Their weapons are locked on our propulsion systems, Okonkwo added, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. Precision targeting. They're trying to disable, not destroy. Small mercies, Rise muttered. She toggled the ship-wide comm. Engineering. Status report. Dr. Alina Levine's voice came through, strained but steady. Hawking Drive is operating at 213% of rated capacity, Captain. We've bypassed 3 failsafes to maintain velocity. Coolant reserves. A pause. Critically low. The radiation shielding around the drive core is deteriorating. Compartments J7 through J9 are showing dangerous levels of tachyon leakage. Rise frowned. Those compartments housed part of the engineering crew. Casualties. 3 techs with early radiation symptoms. They volunteered to stay. Levine's voice cracked slightly. It was the only way to keep the drive online. Of course they volunteered. Everyone aboard had when they learned about the distress call. A chance to save an alien civilization, the first humans to make that kind of difference on a galactic scale. Time to Nimbus system, Rise asked. 4 hours at current velocity, the navigation officer reported. But we can't maintain this speed much longer without burning out the drive entirely. Rise studied the alien blockade. Whoever they were, they had no way of knowing the Thunderchild's mission. From their perspective, an unknown vessel was barreling toward a populated system at impossible speeds, ignoring communication attempts. She made her decision. Reduce velocity by 30%. Let's show them we're not charging in weapons hot. Captain, the time window. Park began. We'll miss our optimal deployment window, yes, Rise cut in. But we'll still have time if we can convince them to let us through. The ship shuddered as the Hawking Drive powered down slightly. In engineering, warning klaxons immediately silenced as radiation levels dropped. Begin broadcasting our first contact package on all frequencies, Rise ordered, and prepare the shield drones for rapid deployment. The ship's AI interjected. Captain, diagnostics indicate the atmospheric shield network was designed for average coronal ejection parameters. The latest sensor readings from Nimbus II suggest this event exceeds design specifications by approximately 22%. Silence fell across the bridge. Will it work? Rise asked softly. Probability of successful radiation dispersal is 64.3%. The AI replied. Failure would result in complete sterilization of Nimbus I's surface. 8 billion lives. A 1 in 3 chance of failure. A proximity alert blared. One of the alien vessels had broken formation, accelerating toward them. They're charging weapons, Okonkwo warned. Shields at maximum. Hold position, Rise ordered. On the view screen, the alien ship's profile grew larger. Let's see what first contact really looks like. Red alert. Human warship incoming. Moving quickly. Part 3. The Deception and the Zealot. The vessel's construction suggests numerous weapons ports along its ventral surface. Admiral Zexazvan stated, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the war room's harsh lighting. The Thoraxian commander towered over the other members of the Defense Council, mandibles clicking rhythmically as he manipulated the holographic display. Note these structures, cooling vents for what must be extraordinarily powerful weapon systems. In reality, they were examining the Thunderchild's adaptive cooling system for its experimental drive. Counselor Tilani studied the projection with growing skepticism. The slender Valyrian skin shimmered with subtle color patterns, a physiological manifestation of the empathic impressions she was receiving even at this distance. Admiral, with respect, I'm not sensing hostile intent from this vessel, she said carefully. There's urgency, yes. Determination, but not aggression. Zexvan's compound eyes fixed on her. Counselor, Your species' empathic abilities, while valuable, cannot reliably interpret the emotional patterns of an unknown species, especially one as reportedly volatile as these humans. He turned to the assembled representatives of the 17 Alliance species. Our long-range monitoring of Earth detected over 300 armed conflicts in their brief recorded history. They've nearly destroyed their own planet twice through nuclear brinkmanship. Their entertainment glorifies violence. What he didn't mention was the classified report now displayed on his private terminal, a centuries-old prophecy from the ancient Thoraxian texts. Beware the 5-limbed demons who travel between stars. They will bring the fire of creation and destruction. 5 limbs, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. Humans matched the description perfectly. The approaching vessel has reduced speed, reported a technician. They're broadcasting some kind of information package. A ruse. Zex Vaughn dismissed. Prepare intercept protocol. We should at least examine their transmission. Tilani interrupted, her skin flushing deep indigo with frustration. The Admiral's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Very well. Display the transmission. The hologram shifted, showing a series of mathematical sequences, followed by simplified anatomical diagrams of a human, then rudimentary language primers. Standard first contact protocol. Tilani reached toward the controls to continue the playback when her console suddenly went dark. Around the chamber, several other counselors experienced similar failures. Communication system overload, a technician announced. Security protocols have isolated affected stations. Tilani's eyes narrowed. The timing was too convenient. Zex Van addressed the remaining council members. I've dispatched the Vigilant to intercept. If they truly come in peace, they will halt and submit to boarding. If not, aboard the Thunderchild, Lieutenant Park froze at her station, her neural implants flaring bright red. Captain, I'm detecting irregularities in the distress signal we received. Explain, Rice demanded. The original broadcast appears to have been manipulated before reaching Earth. Specific frequencies were amplified to ensure our sensors would detect it, while others were suppressed. Her implants pulsed as she processed the data. The signal was deliberately modified to attract human attention. Before Rice could respond, the tactical station erupted with alerts. Incoming fire, Okonkwo shouted. Point defense activated. The ship shuddered as energy pulses streaked past their bow. Deliberate near misses. They're testing our defensive capabilities, Okonkwo realized. The main view screen shifted to show the approaching Alliance vessel, its angular design bristling with weapon emplacements. A transmission cut through their communications jamming, resolving into the image of Admiral Zex Van. Unknown vessel. The translator rendered his clicks and whistles. You have entered protected space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire. Ray stepped forward, chin raised. First contact was supposed to be a moment of awe and diplomacy. Instead, she was facing an alien with murder in its compound eyes. Reyes held Admiral Zexivan's alien gaze on the view screen, acutely aware that humanity's first diplomatic exchange with an extraterrestrial civilization was rapidly devolving into an interspecies standoff. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth vessel Thunderchild, she responded, keeping her voice steady. We are responding to a distress signal from the Nimbus system. We come to offer assistance, not conflict. The translator rendered her words into the Alliance's common language, but Zex Van's posture remained aggressive. Your vessel's configurations suggest military capacity, he clicked back. Submit to boarding or. The transmission abruptly split, a second window appearing alongside Zex Van's image. A slender alien with iridescent skin that rippled with colors addressed Rise. Captain, I am Counselor Tilani. Our sensors detect unusual radiation signatures from your vessel. Explain your true purpose here. Before Reyes could answer, the Thunderchild's sensors blared with urgent alerts. Captain, the science officer called out. I'm detecting massive stellar activity from Nimbus. The star is. The view screen automatically shifted to show a real-time feed of the Nimbus system. The star at its center was convulsing, its surface erupting with plasma filaments that twisted and coiled like living things. A massive prominence arced outward, collapsing and sending a shockwave of energy directly toward the inhabited third planet. "That's not a normal coronal ejection," Dr. Levine said, rushing onto the bridge from engineering, her face pale. "That's a Bardeen cascade, a chain reaction of magnetic reconnection events." Tilani's colors shifted to stark white. "Impossible. Our stellar monitoring network would have detected." "Your monitoring network isn't designed to detect subspace magnetic fluctuations," Levine interrupted. "We only discovered them after the Mars colony disaster of 2197. Reyes made a snap decision. Transfer our stellar data to the Alliance vessels. Show them what we're seeing." She turned back to the split screen. "Admiral, Counselor, your planetary shields won't hold against this. We have technology specifically designed to counter this phenomenon, but we need to deploy immediately." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Zex Van's alien features. Tilani addressed someone off-screen. "Confirm these readings." After a pause, her colors darkened. "They're accurate. Our scientists are detecting the cascade effect now." On Nimbus II, civilians stared skyward as the first radiation wave hit the upper atmosphere, creating ghostly ribbons of light that danced across the heavens. Beauty preceding extinction. In orbit, the planet's standard radiation shields began to flicker and fail in patches, overwhelmed by the stellar assault. "Counselor, we have less than 40 minutes before the main wavefront hits," Reyes urged. "Those atmospheric displays are just the precursor." Tilani turned to Zex Van. "Admiral, we must allow them to." "It could be a deception," he hissed. "A fabricated crisis to bypass our defenses. Look at your own data." Levine shouted, forgetting protocol in her frustration. She transmitted detailed schematics of the SHIELD drone network. "This is what we're offering. Each drone creates a subspace field that redirects radiation. Networked together, they can shield an entire planet." On the view screen, Tilani studied the schematics, her colors shifting through analytical patterns. "This technology, it's unlike anything in our database." "Because we developed it through necessity," Reyes said quietly, "after watching thousands die on Mars. Please, let us help." Tilani's gaze met Reyes across the gulf of space and species. "Deploy your drones, Captain. The Council grants emergency authorization." Behind her, Admiral Zex Van's mandibles clicked in barely contained fury. "SHIELD drone deployment in progress," Okonkwo reported as the Thunderchild's launch bays opened. Hundreds of hexagonal devices streamed out in precise formation, their propulsion systems leaving trails of blue light as they descended toward Nimbus I's upper atmosphere. "Alliance vessels are maintaining distance but have weapons locked," Park added. "They're watching us closely." "As long as they let us work," Reyes replied. She turned to Dr. Levine. "How long until the network is operational?" 28 minutes to achieve minimum coverage," the engineer said, monitoring the deployment. "We'll be cutting it close." A chime sounded on the communication console. "Captain, the Alliance Council is requesting to send representatives aboard," Park announced. "They want to verify our technology and intentions." Reyes raised an eyebrow. "In the middle of an emergency operation. Specifically, they're sending Counselor Tilani and a technical team. A show of trust could help smooth things later," Okonkwo suggested. "Assuming we all survive this." Reyes nodded. "Grant permission. Security protocols in place, but keep it minimal. We don't want to appear hostile." Within minutes, the Alliance shuttle docked with the Thunderchild. Tilani and 4 other aliens, each from a different species, stepped onto the human vessel. The Counselor's skin rippled with cautious blues and purples as she regarded the human crew. "We've never encountered a species willing to risk themselves for strangers," she said through her translator. "Our analysts find your behavior statistically improbable." "It's who we are," Rise replied simply. Let me show you the drone control center. As they moved through the ship, Dr. Levine suddenly froze, staring at her tablet. Captain, I'm detecting anomalous code in the deployment system. Meaning? Someone has introduced a virus into the shield programming. It's subtle, designed to create a resonance effect in the energy fields. Her face paled. If activated, it would amplify the radiation rather than blocking it. The network would become a weapon, one of the alien technicians said, mandibles clicking in alarm. Security Chief Okonkwo immediately drew his sidearm. We have a saboteur on board. Or we brought one with us, Tilani said, her colors darkening as she turned to examine her own delegation. The ship's AI activated emergency protocols, sealing compartments throughout the vessel. Warning lights bathed the corridors in red. How long to purge the virus? Rise demanded. Unknown, Levine replied. It's embedded deep in the operational matrix. We have to reset the entire network, which means recalling all drones and redeploying. We don't have time for that, Rise said, checking the countdown to the main radiation wave. Can we isolate it? Working on. Levine began, but the ship suddenly lurched, throwing everyone against the walls. Multiple impacts. Okonkwo reported through the comm. 3 Alliance vessels have broken formation and opened fire. On the bridge, the tactical officer watched in horror as the rogue Alliance ships targeted the drone deployment system specifically. They're trying to destroy our launch bays. In the corridor, Tilani's skin flushed crimson with alarm. She grabbed her communicator, barking orders in her native language. When nothing happened, she turned to Reyes. Those ships are following Zexvan's direct orders, against Council authority. Millions are starting emergency evacuations planetside, but most have nowhere to go. The alien's eyes fixed on Reyes. Your ship is damaged. Your system is compromised. The radiation wave hits in 22 minutes. What can you possibly do now? Before Reyes could answer, the ship rocked again from another impact, and emergency alarms blared throughout the vessel. Reroute emergency power to the shields. Rise ordered as she and Tilani rushed onto the bridge. Status report. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. The tactical officer responded, hands flying across his console. Drone deployment at 43% and holding. We've lost the secondary launch bay. Through the view screen, 3 Alliance vessels circled the Thunderchild like predators, their weapons lancing out in coordinated strikes. Beyond them, the loyal Alliance ships seemed paralyzed by indecision, unwilling to fire on their own kind. Captain, Dr. Levine's voice came through the comm, breathless and urgent. I've isolated the virus. It's not just in our system. It's infecting the drones we've already deployed. Can you neutralize it? Not remotely. The virus has a rotating encryption key, and it's spreading from drone to drone through their mesh network. She hesitated. Someone would have to manually upload the patch to the primary control node in orbit. Lieutenant Commander Jackson stepped forward from his station. I can do it. That's a one-way trip, Okonkwo warned. The node is exposed to direct stellar radiation. The shuttle shielding won't hold against what's coming. Jackson's jaw tightened. My sister was stationed on Mars Colony. She died because we didn't have this technology then. Tilani's translator didn't catch the emotion in his voice, but her empathic abilities did. Her skin rippled with deep indigo patterns of respect. There must be another way, Rise insisted, but the ship rocked with another impact, throwing sparks from a nearby console. Shields down to 28%. The tactical officer reported. We can't take much more of this. Jackson met Reyes' eyes. You know there isn't, Captain. Not in the time we have left. On the auxiliary screen, the drone network displayed as a honeycomb pattern of hexagons around Nimbus II. Nearly half were already in position, but their status lights were turning from green to amber as the virus spread. The radiation wavefront will reach the planet in 17 minutes, the science officer announced. Rise made the hardest decision of her career. Prepare a shuttle. Chief Levine, get that patch ready. As Jackson headed for the launch bay, Tilani suddenly stiffened. Her skin flashed warning patterns of bright yellow and red. The saboteur, I can sense them. Her gaze locked onto one of her own delegation, a reptilian technician who had remained silent until now. The alien's hand moved toward a concealed device on his belt. Okonkwo reacted instantly, tackling the saboteur to the deck. The device clattered free, sliding across the floor. Quantum transmitter. Tilani identified it. He's been communicating with the attacking ships. The reptilian saboteur hissed defiantly. The observer must be stopped. You don't understand what you're interfering with. The observer? Rise demanded. There's no time. Jackson called from the doorway. I need to launch now. In the silence that followed, the saboteur began to laugh, a chilling sound that needed no translation. It's too late. The cascade is already accelerating beyond your models. Your shields would never have held anyway. On the view screen, the star visibly convulsed, ejecting another massive prominence. The radiation sensors spiked into the red. He's right, the science officer confirmed grimly. The stellar event just intensified. Radiation levels are 40% higher than our worst projections. Jackson's expression hardened. Then we improvise, like humans always do. As he sprinted toward the launch bay, the Thunderchild shuddered under another barrage of attacks, and emergency lights flickered throughout the ship. Jackson's shuttle streaked away from the Thunderchild, navigating through weapons fire as the rogue Alliance vessels adjusted their targeting priorities. Inside the cramped cockpit, warning systems screamed about the approaching radiation wave. I'll draw their fire, came Captain Ray's voice over the comm. Get to that control node. The Thunderchild surged forward, its remaining weapons finally unleashing a barrage that forced the attacking ships to scatter. The maneuver worked. Two of the attackers peeled away to engage the human vessel, giving Jackson's shuttle a clear path. Approaching the node, Jackson reported, his voice steady despite the fluctuating gravity, as he pushed the shuttle past its safety limits. The primary control node hung in space, a sleek hexagonal platform, twice the size of the shuttle, surrounded by a swarm of partially deployed shield drones. Its status lights pulsed amber as the virus continued its spread. Radiation levels are climbing, Dr. Levine mourned through the comm. You have maybe 5 minutes before exposure becomes lethal. Copy that. Jackson guided the shuttle alongside the node and reached for his helmet, beginning EVA. On the bridge of the Thunderchild, Tilani watched the sensor readings with growing dread. Your crewman. He knows he won't survive this, yes. He knows, Rise answered softly. Through the external cameras, they watched Jackson exit his shuttle, the patch code contained in a handheld device. Magnetic boots anchored him to the node's surface as he located the access port. Across Alliance channels, word of the human sacrifice spread. Weapons fire gradually ceased as ship after ship fell silent, their crews transfixed by the unfolding drama. Even Admiral Zextavan, watching from his flagship, found himself unable to give the order to continue firing. Begin transmitting Jackson's helmet feed on all frequencies, Rise ordered. Let them see. On Nimbus II, billions of citizens watched their screens in stunned silence as a strange alien, a human, worked frantically to save them while his own life ebbed away. Jackson's movements grew less coordinated as radiation sickness set in. Blood streamed from his nose, spattering the inside of his helmet. He forced his trembling hands to connect the final circuits. Patch. Uploading, he gasped. Progress at 60%. Above him, the first drone's status light switched from amber back to green. It's working, Levine confirmed, her voice breaking. The virus is being purged. Jackson slumped against the node, strength failing. Through his faceplate, he watched as drone after drone reactivated, forming an expanding network around the planet. 75% coverage, Levine reported. Radiation wave approaching in 3, 2, 1. The approaching wall of energy slammed into the outermost drones. For a terrible moment, It seemed the shield would collapse under the onslaught. The drones glowed white-hot, straining beyond their design limits. Then, miracle of engineering, the energy began to refract around the planet. The shield network transformed the deadly radiation into a rippling curtain of blue-white light that enveloped Nimbus II. "The shield is holding," Levine announced in disbelief. Jackson smiled faintly as his vital signs flatlined. On every ship, on every screen throughout the Alliance, they watched a human die to save billions of aliens he had never met and would never know. Admiral Zek-Savan stared at the feed, mandible still. The ancient prophecy scrolled through his mind again. They will bring the fire of creation and destruction. Perhaps the texts had been right after all, but misinterpreted for generations. The fire they brought wasn't to destroy. It was to save. 3 days after the radiation wave passed, the damaged Thunderchild maintained orbit around Nimbus II. The shield network still glimmered in the upper atmosphere, its energy gradually dissipating as the stellar events subsided. Captain Rice stood before the Alliance Grand Council in their orbital chamber, the formal dress uniform of Earth's United Exploration Navy, feeling strangely inadequate for the occasion. A black mourning band encircled her left arm in honor of Lieutenant Commander Jackson. "Your technology saved 8.2 billion of our citizens," the Alliance High Chancellor, a crystalline being similar to Commander Vexora, announced. "The Council extends its profound gratitude." Rice nodded respectfully, but her expression remained solemn. "We came to help, not to be thanked. But we do request answers about who orchestrated this crisis." Tilani stepped forward, her skin now a calm, authoritative blue. "The saboteur has been interrogated. What we've learned is troubling." The chamber darkened as a holographic projection appeared in the center, a complex, geometric artificial intelligence core unlike anything humans had developed. "This is the Observer," Tilani explained, "an artificial intelligence created by a precursor species that vanished from our galaxy approximately 20,000 years ago. The saboteurs are part of its cult," Admiral Zek-Savan added, his demeanor now respectful rather than hostile. "They believe it guides galactic evolution towards some greater purpose." A new image appeared, a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy with highlighted regions showing civilization spread. "The Observer has been manipulating species development for millennia," Tilani continued. "It detected concerning patterns in Alliance development. Our cooperative nature eliminated existential threats, but also reduced innovation. We've made minimal technological progress for over 1,000 years. Meanwhile, your isolated species on Earth developed unique approaches to survival problems," Zek-Savan acknowledged, "including shield technology we never conceived of." Rice studied the display, understanding dawning. "So the Observer manipulated the distress signal to draw humans into Alliance space." "Yes," Tilani confirmed. "And it arranged the stellar cascade to force a crisis that would demonstrate humanity's value to the Alliance. Billions of lives risked for a sociological experiment," Rice asked, incredulous. "The Observer operates on timescales beyond our comprehension," Tilani replied. "Individual lives mean little against species survival. According to the saboteur, it detected threats approaching from intergalactic space that will require both human innovation and Alliance cooperation to survive." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Admiral Zek-Savan approached Rice, performing the solemn Thoraxian ritual of respect for fallen warriors. His forehead plate gently touched hers. "Your Jackson fights now in the eternal war alongside my ancestors," he said, "and your people have earned what no species has received before, our trust." The following day, as the Thunderchild prepared to return to Earth with Alliance representatives aboard, Reyes stood alone in the ship's memorial garden. A small plaque bearing Jackson's name had been added to the wall, the first human casualty of interstellar diplomacy. Tilani entered silently, her colors shifting to respectful purple. "Your crew member's sacrifice will be remembered on 1,000 worlds." "He would have said he was just doing his job," Reyes replied softly. Perhaps that is the most remarkable thing about humans, Tilani observed. What other species would consider saving billions of strangers simply part of their duty? As the Thunderchild broke orbit, the automated alert system throughout Alliance space recognized the human vessel's signature. The warning message that appeared on monitoring stations had been permanently changed.